Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, hear information about Syngenta's Victrato Seed Treatment, a new component in our Starting Line Plus seed treatment and how it can help protect against diseases such as red crown rot. Dylan shares projected future weather patterns and a map of an El Niño projected to come this winter. And Lynn shares an article from Progressive Farmer about qualifications and restrictions on OTT Dicamba.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman. Welcome to Mershman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have our regulars. We got Ben, we got Dylan, and Lynn, and everybody's got a little bit to contribute today, so let's start with Ben.
Well, I think the obvious one, and we were talking before the show that I wanted to touch on, is green up is definitely happening in our wheat fields. Lynn, you were talking about anhydrous strips through your grass where you're getting the anhydrous started. So nitrogen is making a difference on grasses. It's definitely making things green up more. So I know that we have had a fair amount of rainfall in our sales footprint, but if you haven't got your nitrogen on your wheat, if you're doing a 1-pass, 2-pass, whatever the program is, now is the important time to be getting that on, because the wheat is rapidly growing. You can tell huge differences in the rye and the wheat over the past week and a half. Definitely something to pay attention to and to get your nitrogen on if you can get it on, if it's not too muddy. So that was the first thing that I wanted to touch there. Something that we are extremely excited for a full launch for next year is a product coming from Syngenta called Victrato. And we've touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to highlight it one more time for this episode because we are doing a full launch of Victrato for next year.
It is a seed treatment.
Yep, it is a seed treatment. It is kind of like a Sultro 2.0, and kind of the reason we call it Sultro 2.0 is because it does all of the same things that Sultro does really well, but even better. So some of our growers in Illinois had a soft launch this year because of its effectiveness against red crown rot, but I kind of wanted to go over a handful of the data on the reason that we chose to move forward with this project for a full launch for next year. And that's basically, what does Sultro control? Sultro controls nematodes, Sultro controls sudden death, and Sultro has a little bit of activity against red crown rot. So from a nematicide standpoint, Victrato compared to Olivo, and Olivo is shown to be fairly effective against nematodes. We have an 84% positive yield advantage with the Victrato. That's a 3.3 bushel advantage in 101 trials over 7 years. Same set of trial data. We have a 1.9 bushel advantage with Olivo, so you're talking 14% higher yield advantage when using the Victrato versus Olivo as your standard nematicide.
And a little footnote to what Ben's talking about at Mershman Seeds, as you know, when it comes to new products, particularly seed treatments, we lead the pack. And what happened this year is the label came so late that we already had started production. So then we phased through our Sultro inventory and then immediately went into Victrato. Right. And with a focus on Illinois, where the red crown rot is, almost everybody in Illinois will get Victrato. And then we're any of the late sales that get shipped out here will be Victrato for the most part.
Yeah.
So in Iowa, we don't have red crown rot, so we're not as concerned, but we still think overall it's a better product for other reasons, what you went over. But just to be clear, that we had to do a transition, and then for next year, 100%, we're going that way, 100% for next year.
Yeah, and I can throw a map up of where Midwest counties confirmed with red crown rot from 2022 to 2025. You can see the map here. Central Illinois, Southwest Illinois, a few counties in Missouri have had the red crown rot presence for sure. So this is red crown rot is a disease that causes foliar symptoms similar to sudden death. So you see the interveinal chlorosis. We probably have it in more areas than what's covered on the map, but it's one of those deals where it's pretty easy to be going 60 mile an hour and pick out a sudden death field in late August. So the distinction between the two is you go out in the field and you look at the base of that soybean stem, and you can actually see little red pustules or red staining on the bottom of that the stem, and that will tell you the difference whether it's red crown rot or sudden death. As I've said in the past, we definitely want to take those plants in, get it diagnosed, and by your university or independent lab to make sure that you're actually dealing with red crown rot. But this product here has shown significant differences. The next picture that I can throw up when in respect to red crown rot is a plot that we actually personally had the ability to go see down in Hamel, Illinois, and we've talked about this a couple different times, but you can visibly see the difference in the defoliation that happens at the end of the year with the untreated checks compared to Victrato, compared to Olivo, compared to Sultro. So it is hands down a better seed treatment when it comes to red crown rot. It's almost the only option that I can think of on the industry right now when it comes to protection against the red crown rot.
And if you're a seed grower for us, you will be getting that product this year, because we're a firm believer in putting the best protection with our seed growers, because that gives plumper seed, more uniform seed, helps everything from the standpoint of seed quality too. So we made it a priority to make sure our seed growers get this new treatment.
You mentioned that, and it's a point I like to point out for transparency. You know, we have a lot of conversations with folks. There is some products that are probably going to claim efficacy against red crown rot, but in our opinion and our providers that provide us information, the problem that they're having with some of those products is widespread in-field efficacy against it. In a lab setting, in a petri dish, it works fantastic, but in an in-field setting, there's much more trouble, I guess, maintaining that level of success, just because of all the other factors that go into, you know, competing, pests, weather, something there just is not as efficacious as what we're seeing out of Victrato and the win percentages.
And this was a slow process to get this product labeled. In other words, it took twice as long as they thought. It was about a 4-year process. Should have taken 2 years, but it was a long process. But you know, like anything that takes a longer process, it gives them more time to do field testing, more time to refine where it works, where it doesn't work, what kind of response they're getting. So Syngenta's really got their ducks in a row when it comes to this particular product, because they've had so much in-field time to work with it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest deal for me when it comes to when I talk about Sultro is the biggest hammer for sudden death, and that's one of the main reasons. Or we looked at a lot of data when it comes to the SDS pressure, and when you look at the difference between the Victrato and the Sultro, I have 2 graphs that we can throw up here. There's a 91% positive yield increase when we compare Victrato to Olivo, 4.8 bushel yield advantage when you're looking at those two individual competing products for a sudden death acre under moderate to heavy SDS pressure. These trials were rated in. And under that same moderate to heavy SDS pressure, we have an 87% positive yield difference between the Victrato and the Sultro, which is the current sudden death platform that we are working with.
And Victrato still has that seed safety, just like
correct.
Sultro has, as compared to Olivo, which gives what they call the halo effect. And, you know, basically is causing some injury. And consequently, that's one of the reasons why we left Olivo. It's a great product, works great, but we just don't like looking at beans that are damaged coming out of the ground. And so we went to Sultro because we don't like that step back. We don't like to see things slow down. So these 2 products, Sultro and Victrato, operate very similar when it comes to seed safety.
Right. So I think it checks all the boxes. That's the reason that we're moving forward with it. We're very excited. I'm going to say probably 2/3 of our, half to 2/3 for our soft launch of our SDS protected soybeans. Have a Victrato Trinempco combination to them. So
you can check the tag, you'll know.
Yep, it's going to be something that we're going to see on quite a few acres this year, and I'm excited for the growers that are in the red crown rot areas and the areas that have these higher pressures to be able to see the advantage of this new treatment. What do you got, Dylan?
Yeah, so with seems like weather can always be a big topic in the ag world, and Joe has well, I guess in the news lately they're bringing up what kind of weather we can be projected in the coming months, and I'll have Alex put up this document with the map. But forecasters they're projecting an El Nino coming sometime this winter, or starting in early June, July, or August. So we know it could be potentially as early as our growing season that we're going to be facing this year. And so it's actually, they're placing odds 80%, they're putting 80% odds that we're going to see it by the end of 2026. That is the highest odds since back in 2002. So it was 24 years ago. They were projecting it to be.
Do you remember that year?
I wasn't around. So there are very, very strong chances that we're going to see the El Nino come in sometime in 26 or potentially a little earlier. And we know that's going to bring in warmer temperatures, drier winters. Because then if you look at the maps of the typical El Nino winters, mainly around Iowa, seems like we're equal chances to what we're going to get, but then you move south into our footprint, we get a little bit drier. So we're gonna see drier winters most likely coming up, but we'll see if the weather stays that way.
Hey Dylan, don't feel bad. I don't remember 2002 either.
Long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Well, one of the things that Snodgrass talks about when it comes to the El Nino side of things is it's usually gets us in a very active weather pattern. So there's going to be dry spots, there's going to be wet spots. You have your traditional warmer, cooler areas, but based on the map and the picture that you were looking at there, I think the Ohio River Valley would actually enjoy a little bit drier stretch because it seems like the last 3 or 4 years they have been just hammered, getting wet.
Yeah, and the last time we saw this weather pattern was in the summer of 2023 when it started, and then went through late winter of 24. So,
if I remember correctly, that left northern Iowa fairly dry. Very, very good crops, but had just enough to finish off.
Always something to worry about, right?
For sure.
That there is. I just wanted to go over real quick. Jason Jenkins with DTN posted an article that I thought was pretty timely and important. As we know, the over-the-top application dicamba was reapproved or approved by the EPA, so it's back on the table. There are a few states that do have more specific ramifications or qualifications for the over-the-top application beyond what the federal label has. So I think if it's in 34 states is what EPA had registered the over-the-top application for. Specifically, Syngenta, they chose not to register in Arizona, but the rest look like they have. Some of the big ones wanted to hit Illinois. Their change is they were going to be after June 20th, but the biggest implication that they have that's different from the federal label is they have an 85-degree Fahrenheit cutoff.
So
and that's,
sorry to interrupt, but after June 20th is in
after
application is restricted.
No application after June 20th based on the calendar. And then they also have an air temperature that is 85 degrees, or the National Weather Service forecasted high temperature of the day cannot exceed 85 degrees. The new label allows for up to 95 degrees. So that is a change for the folks in Illinois. Indiana, looks like Indiana and Iowa are sharing a very similar verbiage. They are cutoff date of June 12th, so you have to be sprayed before June 12th, or by the V4 growth stage. So depending on when you get planted, as we've had some pretty good running the last couple of years of getting in early, you could have potential for the V4 to be the application time frame rather than the calendar date.
And Enlist is R1, correct?
Enlist is through R1.
Through R1.
So R2, you have to have it shut off.
Yeah, which is beginning the flowering. Yeah, so.
Yep. Yeah. So depending on when you plant. For some folks too, that basically would take, I would probably rule out everyone as any double crop dicamba soybeans. That's obviously going to be out no matter where we're at in our.
Too warm, too hot. Yeah.
Too hot. The calendar's already flipped. So that takes that away. But for the folks in Minnesota, it does get a little bit more complicated up there. No application over the top. South of 94 after June 12th, north of 94 after June 30th. Statewide, Minnesota is also instituting a restriction with the air temperature of 85. So a little bit, got to be a little bit careful for the Minnesota folks, depending on where you live at. So there's a geographical spread there. So by no means we were just given this information. So please check the label. Not only check the federal label, check your state label as well to make sure you are following suit. And also, you were looking at it, and I saw it too, with the Endangered Species Act. There's some more stuff kind of going along there with spraying. So make sure that you're going over all your do's and don'ts before you start the spray season here to make sure we don't have any issues related to herbicides. So check your herbicide labels for timing, all herbicide labels for timing, and make sure that you're following the applications. You know, we get questions or get some complaints too related to herbicide application with the use of burn down of LV4, LV6, or generic 2,4-Ds. That's another one we've really got to be careful on. Our plant back restrictions and monitoring those, that seems to be a subject of consternation the last couple of years. So just a good time right now to figure out what you have in the shed, what the label rates are, what the label timings are, and make sure you're practicing those 4R principles and staying in compliance and not having any issues. So definitely, and with the kind of similar to the Victrato, with the over-the-top application of Dicamba coming so late into the season, there's a lot of questions and answers being provided here at what I would call, we'll call it the 23rd hour. So make sure that you're minding your P's and Q's on that, because it's obviously a technology that has come with a lot of consternation in the marketplace. So if you're a user that's going to be using that, I think it would be pretty naive to say that there's not going to be a lot of folks watching both the application and the post-application issues that may or may not come. We hope it doesn't, but definitely all eyes are watching on that front with the judicial political ramifications that came with the Dicamba label and pulling of the Dicamba label the last couple times.
Sounds good. I got a couple things. First of all, I want to add a little bit to Dylan's weather forecast. Turk Rigginator, our former general sales manager, texted me this morning, and he lives just south of Iowa City, said the turkey buzzards are in the air. Now, if you don't know what the significance of that, because everybody knows the significance of the skunks, you see your first dead skunk, we'll be planting corn in 6 weeks. Well, what about turkey buzzards? Turkey buzzards fly up from the south, and the old saying is, that Turk taught me, was you never see snow on the back of a turkey buzzard. So a turkey buzzard, when you see them in the air, that means spring's pretty much started, you know. Now, there is snow in the forecast Sunday night, Monday, so those turkey buzzards, I hope they check that forecast. Anyhow, we'll see what happens. But anyhow, it's a sure sign of spring either way. And the other thing too is we want to recognize that Ag Week is next week. And we really appreciate our farmers. You know, I always say never cuss a farmer with your mouth full while you're eating. So, I mean, they do a lot of hard work, and we sincerely appreciate it. So, I was a little bit cocky today when we came into this episode, and I said, if you guys can't carry the load, I can, because I got some good jokes. But we'll let our audience be the determination factor. Okay? So here we go. First one, we're going to challenge your brain ability, okay? It's a riddle. What's orange and sounds like a parrot? Orange and sounds like a parrot. Carrot, okay? Just starting off, you know. I don't know if the other day I opened my electric bill and my water bill at the same time, and I was shocked. Now, anybody that's done any wiring, they'll understand what that means, okay? The other one here is, I always like, once in a while, pick on my wife a little bit, and I go, I just got back from Dubai, where I was offered 40 Camels for my wife, Barb. And I usually smoke Marlboros, but hey, a deal's a deal. Now that's just for the guys. I know the women are not going to like that joke at all, so I apologize to you. Here's another one. I told my daughter to check her attitude. Anybody that's got young daughters, you know, I told her to check her attitude. She looked at me and said, for product complaints, contact the manufacturer. So, you know, that's, you know, there's another thing I always say. If the kids just came with instructions, it'd be a lot easier to manage them, you know, but they don't. Okay, we got St. Patrick's Day next week, so we got to have a St. Patrick's Day joke, okay? Do you know why you should never iron a 4-leaf clover? Why you should never iron a 4-leaf clover? It's not a good idea to press your luck, okay? And the last one, you know, we talk about Iowa, Illinois all the time, but we sometimes don't cover Indiana very well. And we are in Indiana. In fact, we have one of our production facilities over that we contract with in Indiana. So I thought, well, I better let the Indiana farmers know that we do care, okay? And of course, we should recognize, they were the national champions in football, which is quite an accomplishment for Indiana, and we salute them. Anyhow, what do you call a paternity testing facility in Indiana? A paternity testing, where they check who the dad is, It's called Who's Your Daddy?
That was a long build-up.
for not a very good close. Anyhow, thanks for watching today. We sincerely appreciate your business. Look up in the sky, see if the turkey buzzards are circling. That means spring's going to be here. And we hope you got your seed delivered. If not, you better get it done. And I hope your family's safe and healthy. And we'll see you next week.